Hello, I'm Dr. Patrick McGrath, Chief Clinical Officer at NOCD. Welcome to the Get to Know OCD podcast. If you're interested about what it's like to have OCD or to get treatment for OCD, please subscribe to the Get to Know OCD podcast. We hope that you will find this to be an enlightening experience. In this episode, we're going to go over everything you would ever want to know about OCD. What is OCD, the definitions, how is it experienced, and what are some basic things that you can do for treatment of obsessive compulsive disorder. Sometimes you'll see me doing various work on what is OCD or the subtypes of OCD or things to face for treatment. Other times we'll have great guests on who will tell us about what it's been like for them to live a life with OCD and how they've overcome the challenges that OCD has thrown at them. In this episode, we're going to talk about the symptoms, the causes, and everything that you would need to know about OCD, from how it manifests all the way through what you can do for treatment. So, what is obsessive compulsive disorder? Not a small question, obviously, but let's take some time today to talk about it. OCD is really two things. There's obsessions and compulsions. So, first of all, what is an obsession? An obsession is an intrusive thought or image or urge that we experience as maybe unwanted. We might feel it's inappropriate. We might just want it to go away. And we find it to almost be kind of like that itch you can't scratch, right? It's there and it's really annoying. And so we want to do something to try to neutralize it. Well, it can be neutralized with a thought or an action, and that's what a compulsion is. Unfortunately, that neutralization usually works for a few milliseconds to a few minutes, and then we find ourselves back in the cycle of having to do everything all over again. Now, let me say this. Everybody in the world experiences intrusive thoughts, images, or urges. That's nothing that's out of the ordinary for any human being whatsoever. In fact, any of you watching this, even if you don't have OCD, might have at some point been driving over a bridge and thought to yourself, what if I just turn the wheel of the car really hard right now and shoot the car off the bridge into the lake? Should you never drive over bridges again? Or are you just a human who experiences random, weird, intrusive thoughts once in a while? One of the differences between people with and without OCD is people with OCD think there must be meaning to that. Why did I think that? Maybe I want that. What if that were to come true? And should I do something to try to make that never, ever happen at all? Versus people without OCD can go, well, that was weird. And then they move on. So now let's get back to that compulsion piece, that neutralization. When you have obsessive compulsive disorder, your desire is to try to neutralize whatever that obsession is as quickly as possible to try to assure that that thing does not occur. So if I think, what if my ceiling collapses on me and then I don't do something to try to stop it, like knock on wood a couple of times, then the ceiling could actually fall on me. And then it would be my fault because I didn't do something to try to neutralize it. So I'm going to undo that just for right now, and I'll go back to that later and explain why. So I'm hoping at some point during this recording, the ceiling above me collapses upon me, crushing me to death. And I'm just going to let that thought be there, and we'll see what happens. When you do a compulsion and the thing that you're afraid of doesn't actually occur, what do you learn? Well, you learn that compulsions probably are the reason why. And therefore, I need to keep doing a compulsion to make sure something bad doesn't happen. Because if something bad does happen and I didn't do the compulsion, well, it would be my fault. And that would be terrible. People could die, they could be injured, bad things could happen in the world. It would all come back to me. So why not just take the time to do the compulsion? And that's what OCD would really love you to do, is to do the compulsion. In fact, the name of our company, NOCD, really comes out of this notion of no compulsive disorder, as in compulsions really are the problem. I don't know how to stop people from having thoughts. I wish that we could at times, but people have sometimes said to me, I would love to be able to never have this thought or this image or this urge again. But that's not what treatment is going to be about. Treatment's really going to be about learning that you can handle whatever it is that pops into your head. You don't have to do a compulsion to deal with it. You can just let it be there, and you can learn that that is just absolutely fine. Now, OCD typically takes an hour more out of people's days, and we'll see this as part of the diagnostic criteria. So if you have obsessions and you're doing compulsions and it's taking a great deal of time out of your day or really interfering in your day, well, you could be meeting criteria for OCD. Now, here's the good news that if you do, it's treatable. But there's a lot of misconceptions about OCD. Some people think it's just washing your hands or straightening things or checking the lock, or that it helps you to solve crimes or it helps you get the relationship that you were hoping for. I would contend that no one with OCD would ever say that OCD has been very helpful in their life. In fact, most would say they would rather not have it. It's sad, unfortunately, that we see a lot of people in the world out there saying, oh, I have a little OCD, or wouldn't it be great if we just had some OCD to help us get through things like COVID or things of that nature? OCD is actually a very serious mental health condition. In fact, the World Health Organization has said it's one of the top 10 most disabling conditions that anybody could ever have. So we know that OCD is very difficult to live with. It is very serious, and it's not a joke. It's not an adjective, and it doesn't stand for obsessive Christmas disorder either, as some sweatshirts unfortunately say. Know that this is a safe place for you to come and to talk about and learn about OCD. We take it seriously. All the way from the founder of NOCD, Stephen Smith, who has OCD himself and has told his story in so many different areas. I encourage you to check it out. How do you live with OCD? Well, it isn't about trying to make a thought go away or an image or an urge not be there anymore. In fact, I often describe that as the pink elephant effect. I keep my pink elephant right here at my desk at all times. Hello. And once I tell someone not to think of a pink elephant, it's pretty hard for them not to think of it. And once you have an obsession, it's pretty hard not to think of that as well, too. Think of OCD almost on a cycle. You have OCD say, hey, now just remember, don't think about this or have an image of it or have an urge about it, which of course leads you to think about it, have an image of it or an urge about it. And so then you get all worked up and OCD's like, oh, I told you not to do that. And so now you got to do something to undo it, because if you don't undo it, bad, terrible, awful things are going to happen. So then you do a compulsion. It'd be nice if you could do a compulsion just once, but no, OCD is very demanding. And sometimes it might take 9,482 times to do the compulsion before you get it just right. And then when you do finally do it just right, OCD says, okay, that was great. Now we're good. Just remember, don't think about that or have an image or urge about it. And the cycle starts all over again. I sometimes refer to it as the hamster wheel of hell, where you're just running on this thing and running. It isn't about trying to slow it down by putting brakes on or seeing a stop sign in your head or telling yourself to stop it or something like that. It's about getting off the hamster wheel totally and not doing any compulsion whatsoever, which I get sounds scary. So that's why when we do this, we do it in a hierarchy. We build our way up. We start with low level things and we build up to the most difficult things that we can do. Now, remember, I'm still waiting for the ceiling to collapse on me and I still haven't done a compulsion yet. If knocking on wood actually did stop it from happening, well, I've undone that now by wishing for it to fall on me again. So that compulsion now is neutralized. And now I'm just going to see if the ceiling does collapse. We still have some time. I'm still going to talk a little bit more. We'll see what happens. As you're starting to work up that hierarchy and face your fears, you're learning things. You're learning, maybe my brain has lied to me. Maybe OCD doesn't actually tell the truth. Is it actually possible that I have fallen for this? Yes, you have. OCD is not a source of truth. OCD does not have your best interest at heart. OCD does not care about you or your friends or your family or your job or anything else. I've worked with people who have been told, if you're late for work again, you will be fired. And they're on their way to work and they know this and they know that they're going to lose their job. But that urge to go back and check the garage door being closed is so strong, because what if they didn't close it enough and their pet got out and then it ran in the street and it got hit by a car or something and it would be all their fault. So even though they know that they're going to be late for work, they turn around and they try to convince themselves, if I just go back really quick, I just check one more time, I know that it's down, everything will be okay, my pet will be fine, all will be well, and I can still get to work. I think I've got like 34 seconds to spare. And of course, that day there's a train. And you go to the door and you try to go in and your boss meets you and says, here's all your stuff. Now, guess what's going to happen in that situation? OCD is not going to say, I'm so sorry. OCD is going to say, if you had just closed the door right the first time, none of this would have happened. It's your fault that you lost your job, not mine. If you just listen to me, everything would be great. I don't like OCD. I want you to truly understand that. I do not like it. And I will work with people tirelessly to help them overcome the effect of obsessive compulsive disorder. We know, again, that OCD does not make lives better. It actually gets in the way. It causes a lot of difficulty for people. Now, here's the good piece. Treatment's available. You can do that with us at NOCD. You can do great online therapy, and we can be right with you in your home, or you could do it at other levels of care as well, too. There's all sorts of care available. There's what we call a IOP or a PHP or even a residential treatment center. So at an IOP or intensive outpatient program, you will go 3 hours a day, maybe 4 or 5 days a week. At a PHP, you will do 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. At a residential, you can even stay 24 hours a day and get the care that you need. So if you think that your OCD is too hard or too difficult to work with and that no one would ever be able to help you, I want you to know that that's another lie that OCD tells you. There is help available. So if you're looking for that help, we want you to check out all the places that you can get that help. You can go to NOCD.com or treatmyocd.com, and you can work on our online platform. You could speak to one of our care team members, and they will be there to help get your information and set you up with a well-trained exposure and response prevention therapist. Now, why ERP? Why is that important? It's the most evidence-based care for the treatment of obsessive compulsive disorder. And it involves two things. Number one, exposing you to the things that you are afraid of. And number two, something that we call response prevention, which is basically the elimination of the compulsion. Remember, if compulsions worked and were actually helpful, we would tell you to do more of them. But we've never once met somebody with OCD who's done more compulsions and got better. We've only seen people with OCD who do more compulsions actually have more difficulties in their life. So our goal is going to be to help you overcome OCD by the elimination of compulsions, gradually doing more and more response prevention and learning that you don't have to trust everything that pops in your head. Those obsessions, those images, those thoughts, those urges. If I was writing a horror film, I could make millions of dollars probably for some of the same images and urges and thoughts that you have. If those things were really bad and awful and terrible, we wouldn't even have horror films. We would be like, no, taboo, bad. No, we shouldn't even think that. And yet, someone might, as I said, get paid millions of dollars for the same thoughts that you have that you think if you don't do a compulsion over, then the world will end, terrible things will happen, people will die, all sorts of things. As we build up that hierarchy and we get you to do more and more things that go against what OCD wants, OCD starts to shrink into the background. Some people have said, can we ever get to a point where I'll never have a thought or an image or urge again that I don't want? Well, unfortunately, the answer is no. We haven't figured that out yet. But what we can do is help you really not care about them anymore. We can have you be able to live the life that you want to live and not the life that OCD wants you to live. Because if living the life that OCD wanted you to live was a great life, well, then I would have a job of giving people OCD instead of helping people take it away from their lives. I hope that this has been a helpful overview for you of what it's like to have obsessive compulsive disorder. And know that there are so many ways that it comes across. Over time, we'll talk more about various subtypes of OCD, even things like sexual orientation-based themes, pedophilic-based themes, existential themes. We even have harm OCD, or you might have something called real event OCD. There's even perinatal issues as well, too. OCD takes the thing that you love the most and says, I think I can screw around with that. It's insidious, it's insatiable, and our job isn't to give everything that OCD wants. No one's ever done enough research to have OCD say, hey, thanks. You've given me all the information I need. I think I'll go now. Our goal is to help people who have OCD learn, do the opposite of everything OCD wants you to do, and you will start to live the life that you want to live and not the life that OCD wants you to live. We've gone over 16 minutes now. The ceiling has still not collapsed on me. I've lived with whatever thought or image or urge about it I have, and nothing bad has happened. And I hope that that can be an example for you as well, that you don't have to trust anything that OCD will ever tell you. If you want to learn more, subscribe to our YouTube channel or subscribe to the Get to Know OCD podcast. Every week we'll be dropping lots of great content, and I look forward to working with you to know what it's like to live with OCD, to overcome OCD, and basically to figure out ways to not have OCD be the ruler of everything going on in your day-to-day life. So check us out and visit us at NOCD.com to get started with treatment. Thanks for joining.